Welcome back for fraction multiplication part 2. Today we're going to talk about the importance of the algorithm for multiplying fractions, which is multiply straight across, which is easy enough to understand. 3 times 1 is 3, 4 times 2 is 8. But this video is going to try and give you some ways to help children understand why it makes sense. So here we begin with one whole unit. And if I want to figure out 3/4 of 1/2, I can begin by breaking this whole unit into 2 halves. And then if I want 3/4 of a half, then I'm going to take one of these halves and break it up into fourths. Now, the answer is right here. This is 3/4 of 1/2, but that piece size is related to the whole unit. So I'm going to go through and create another set of 4 parts, but now within this whole entire unit, there are 8 equivalent pieces. And so there are 3 that are out of 8, which is the product. The product is 3/8, 3 out of 8. But here's another way to get your kid to think logically about this problem. If 3/8 is correct, then 3/8 should be half of 3/4. Well, how can we tell if that's true? Ask your child to maybe explain. One way to do it is to think, well, if 3/8 is half, then each half should equal the whole, right? Remember, this is a half, and then this is the whole thing. Is 6/8 equivalent to 3/4? Yes, and if you've watched my fraction sense videos, or if you have these fraction bars, definitely use them to help see all this if your child is not quite sure of what they're talking about. Here's another way to justify the answer. So this is 3/4 of one whole unit. Is 3/8 half of 3/4? Well, visually, it's got to be right here. And hopefully, your child will know that 2/8 is equal to 1/4. When we split this in half, it's got to be 1/8 and 1/8. So then this over here is 2/8, and this over here is 2/8. So this half is 3/8 total. This might seem superfluous or like extra work for your child, but once they get to multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting all at the same time for various reasons, it'll be very helpful for them to understand what they're doing with multiplication when they multiply straight across. Otherwise, they're going to get confused with division and try to do keep, change, flip, which will actually work, but not for the reason they want it to, and they'll be lost and not know if their answer is even correct. Now, this is an interesting problem that uses a fraction greater than 1, so that's a whole sort of another video if your child doesn't recognize that as being more than 1, but 2/3 times 3/2, multiplying straight across, we get 6/6, which is equivalent to 1 whole. The reason this works and the reason it's true is pretty cool. Here's how it looks. So if we read this problem as 2/3 of 1.5, here I've drawn 1.5. So to find 2/3 of 1.5, it looks like thirds because it is 3 equal parts. Well, this is 1/3, this is another third. This 2/3 is equal to the 1 whole. So this answer makes sense. So multiplying by the reciprocal of any given fraction will equal 1. But you can see it, and it's a pretty neat pattern for kids to understand. So last problem, this is a small amount, 1/5 times 1/3. So 1/5 of 1/3 becomes a very small amount. And in fact, it is 1/15. But here's sort of why it makes sense. 1/5 of 1/3. So if I draw one whole unit and I break it up into thirds, this is 1/3. So there are 2/3 and then 3/3. 1/5 of that, then I have to break this up into 5 pieces. And then because it's one whole unit, I do the whole thing to the entire unit. I break it up, all of it, into fifths, which isn't easy when you're talking. So now I've got 15 equal sized pieces, more or less. So 1/5 of 1/3, that's just this piece right here. That's one piece out of 15. So get your kids to draw this. Hopefully they'll like drawing, because it'll help embed in their brains what's going on and why this answer makes sense. In part 3, we'll work on mixed numbers like 2 1/3 times 3 1/5, and make sense and look at some easier ways of doing these problems than what you might think. So look for part 3, like and follow me on YouTube. Also have lots of other math videos on Instagram and TikTok under Super Teacher Guy. Have a great day.